Welcome to the WOD Pod. Join me as I sit down with CrossFitters, fitness experts, top coaches, professional athletes, and other well-known gym goers to listen to their journey through fitness. In the very first episode of the WOD Pod, we have the one and only Joseph Thomas-Greaves, a retired water polo player, now teaching sport with a plan to be the first primary school teacher to get to the CrossFit Games. In this episode, we find out how Joseph became so passionate about CrossFit and why he launched his online programming company that's already grown much more than he ever expected. Joe, first question is going to be, when did you discover CrossFit? How long ago?
So my discovery to CrossFit and when I started CrossFit is slightly different.
Start with, when did you first hear about CrossFit?
When did I first hear about CrossFit? So me and my friends used to kind of go to a commercial gym and would just train for pure aesthetics. And he kind of showed me CrossFit then and there. So we would kind of add in variations of workouts as something to mix up our training. So we started with Murph because that's always the best way to go, is straight into one of the worst work. I had no idea kind of what Murph was or the kind of like the reasons behind why CrossFit do it. But yeah, Murph was the first workout, kind of strict Murph on a squat rack pull-up bar in a commercial gym was my...
Who was your friend?
He's called Nathan.
Does he still train CrossFit?
He's never has done CrossFit. He was kind of like into kind of powerlifting. He's kind of experienced every form of training. He's kind of the reason I kind of started fitness in the first place. He kind of dragged me along to the gym. And
so how long are we talking then? So CrossFit, how long ago was that?
4 years maybe.
So 4 years ago.
4 and a bit years was kind of my first intro into the sport. Didn't really know what it was, but that was the kind of, I didn't know what CrossFit was. I was just doing CrossFit maybe.
Okay, so you kind of
once
discovered
every
CrossFit
2 weeks.
from doing Murph essentially.
Yeah.
And then
still had no understanding. The kind of next week we came and did like a Cindy workout, so the same movements, just different time frames. Then we kind of started putting our own together. So I guess that was kind of my first experience of programming as well, was kind of putting these pieces together and going from there. And then I became fascinated with handstand walking. One of the kids at the school I teach at was walking on her hands in the playground. Yep. And I just became fascinated with learning to do that. So without knowing what CrossFit was and the skills and the components of the sport, I was kind of building the capacity to be able to do the sport beforehand. Okay,
so 4 years ago was your discovery of CrossFit. Yep. What had you done prior to CrossFit in terms of sport and fitness?
So this is a pretty long question. There's not many sports that I haven't played. I played water polo. I lived in Greece and played water polo to a pretty cool level. Played around with handball, with football, with athletics. I used to sprint. I played cricket, played rugby at school. But kind of like handball was the big one, and then water polo. But then
they're both very unique sports. Like when you said, I'm going to play lots of sport, I was thinking swimming, rugby, football.
Pretty typical. So like my upbringing in sport, like at primary school, we played golf more than we played anything else.
So handball and water polo, would you say they were the two sports you did best at, or the two you enjoyed the most?
I would put them both in the same bracket. Okay. I think because I did well at them, they were sports that I enjoyed playing. We played handball at college, and it was kind of something that just started as a little bit of fun. In one of the lessons we played it, and then it became something that I was slightly more interested in there. And then the opportunity to live in a different country in Greece and play a sport over there was really cool.
So was that handball?
It was water polo.
Water polo in Greece?
Yeah.
Is that a sport that is quite popular in Greece, or is it quite unique still?
It was still very unique.
Still unique
it was,
here.
Yeah, especially me being British over there was very kind of interesting.
And what sort of level did you play water polo?
Like the top level that you can play.
Right. Okay.
Over there.
So, and how long was that?
I was there for 4.5 months. The plan was to be there longer, but then with the Thomas Cook going bust, we lost sponsorship, and then I had to come home.
So then, from coming back from that environment where you're playing competitive water polo, is that where was that possibly how you merged into CrossFit?
Definitely. Yeah. Was that kind of like the team aspect of that came, and I liked training. I still liked kind of go into the gym, and CrossFit was definitely the kind of way I could replicate that. Yeah.
And then, so water polo, talk me through like your training and like, was it intense? Was it horrible?
No, it was basically turn up and kind of mess around in a
Right,
pool
okay.
for a little bit. There wasn't any structure or anything like that to it. I kind of wish it was, and I wish there was the opportunity to play it a lot further, but no, it was. I think that's why I enjoyed CrossFit, because I came from this no structure
Yep.
to a sport that if you weren't structured, the road to the top was almost impossible. So it became almost an obsession to get better because of the structure it allowed it to have.
Earlier, you mentioned about being a primary school teacher.
Yes, snuck that in.
So you just trying to work out your timelines here. So obviously played sport in Greece, then you've come back and discovered CrossFit around 2019. When did you become a primary school teacher?
So
and how did that
teaching's
happen?
been something that's been kind of going on in the background for a long time. I started kind of helping out, just kind of volunteering at a local school,
Yep.
and then working kind of the sports in school. So going in and kind of PE teaching, doing like after school clubs and this kind of stuff. So that was the kind of the timeline as alongside all of this happening. When I was at college,
Yep.
I went to work for a company that one of the tutors had. So I was 16, kind of fresh into schools, and that was just something I always continued to do, just because it was different from everything else I was doing. It was still sports, and I kind of didn't have that kind of role model as a kid at primary school. So being that for other kids became something that was really interesting to me.
So at school, you're teaching sport.
Yes.
At primary school.
Yeah.
And you're currently still teaching.
Yeah.
So do you think it was the lack of sport that you had in primary school
100%.
that gave you that?
Yeah, they gave me the kind of inspiration and the passion to be involved in sport with everything I do.
And obviously, you're also coaching in CrossFit alongside now.
Yeah,
is that right?
Correct.
So you've got a few hats on the go. You've got
there's definitely a lot of
teacher.
plates spinning right now.
Okay. So talk to me about your coaching business, because I've heard you're now doing CrossFit coaching and programming.
Correct.
When did that start, and what made you start that?
So Brick by Brick Programming is my company. We offer coaching and online training for athletes. It started accidentally, basically. I was training with one of my friends, Dom, basically like a little brother to me, and we were just training together. And then a girl that he was kind of just social media friends with at the time came on some calls with us during the Open. So I would kind of chat with them both. And then after the Open, me and the girl, Jess, she's called, we're kind of just chatting a little bit more about her training, how stuff was going. She was training at home and kind of in between a gym. And I kind of offered my services to her and said, look, listen, let me take over what you do. Let me program for you and let's see what happens. And from there, it was kind of something that was never planned on being a business or a company, but it just naturally grew from there. And then more athletes looked at kind of wanting to come on board. And it's never been something I've chased or kind of promoted. It's just always been something that's organically grown. And more athletes kind of inquired about coming on board, and to the point where now I employ two coaches. I employ Elise and Ollie, who are kind of part of my coaching team as well. And we have this currently well-oiled machine of coaches and athletes, which are hopefully slowly taking over.
So from discovering CrossFit 4 years ago, when did Brick by Brick start?
So just over a year and a half ago. So towards 15 to 16 months.
So from discovering a sport 4 years ago, 3 years later, you're launching a coaching business in that industry, which is quite quick to have done that.
For sure.
Do you think you've gained enough experience in CrossFit to do that, or
I think
you still learning?
So I'm always still learning, and my goal is to learn something new every day in regards to the sport. But I think because the sport is still so new and still so ever changing, being somebody who can adapt to that is important.
Yep. I suppose it kind of works hand in hand that you're teaching anyway. So you've got teaching skills and abilities naturally.
Yeah, correct.
So then to kind of merge that over into something you're really passionate about probably is quite easy.
So I mean, this has been like my favorite thing about Brick by Brick as a company and its growth is the fact that I never set out to be an affiliate. I never set out to be kind of like a JST, a training think tank, a company that it kind of sets themselves up with the goal of offering programming. It was something that organically happened and grew, and it was just a chance and an opportunity to help people get better at the sport and kind of offer them the kind of education that I wish I had.
Yep.
And then that has grown, and the people that have come on board are trying to do the same thing now. And it's this kind of big organic, natural growth rather than me kind of writing 5-year plans and targets down of where I want to be and I want this many athletes. And we're going to create this bland package that fits everyone. Everything's just been individualized and organic. And
Yeah.
like, I love it. I love nothing more than a new athlete coming on board and saying, this is my current level. This is where I want to be. Like, how can we get there? Because it's cool for me to sit down and look at femur length and look at X, Y, and Z and kind of break down and test my knowledge. I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to anything like hands-on, getting my head into new information. So like, it gives me the opportunity to continue to learn.
Yeah, I think you can create too much of an artificial program by setting a goal and doing whatever you need to do to get to that goal, because you'll cut corners and you'll probably not grow it organically and naturally. So having almost no goal with it and just running with it
for sure
is going to be as natural and organic with your clients.
I think because of the sport as well, like, it's different. If you have 200 athletes that come to your facility every day, like, it's easier for you if all of them are on the same track and are trying to tick off the same goals, which is all well and good. But then if you have an athlete who's 4 years into the sport and an athlete that's 4 days into the sport, they're going to have very different requirements. So the way we do things is everything's individualized to the point where wherever you are in your journey, it's tailored towards you. So I'm not sat at home reading a script of going, right, okay, we're 6 weeks out from this, we're 2 weeks out of this. I could have one athlete that's 5 weeks out from an event. I could have one athlete that's 2 days out from an event. So everything's different. So I'm never just sat in the same position thinking, here we go again, this is what we're doing. It's always fresh and it's new, and it allows me to be creative and try new things. And
so with that being said, have you actually considered a goal with Brick by Brick? Saying that you haven't right now, but there must be sort of ideas
definitely
as to where you want to see it grow to.
I would class myself as a very ambitious person. Like, I have goals as an athlete myself, and the more athletes that come on board, the goal is always to kind of continue to grow and be bigger, and bring in new coaches on with new ideas and, you know, different standpoints and educational backgrounds. And the goal is to take over the programming world. It'd be really cool to start programming for events. Kind of build a reputation there, but I'm still kind of progressing this like nice natural like progression. I'm not trying to chase certain things at certain times. Like, we have goals, we have ambitions as a company, and me as a coach, and, you know, Elise and Ollie as well. We have goals of where we want to be as a company, but they're not, you know, this week we want to be here, this week we want to be here. It's kind of a nice, smooth, natural progression. As the company grows and we establish ourselves more and more, then that will definitely be the case, and we will look to outline the kind of the achievements we want. But right now, it's just trying to help people and grow as organically as we can.
Did you do a CrossFit coaching course?
Yes.
And what were your thoughts on it?
So the CrossFit Level 1 is a course that I would suggest anyone who has anything to do with the sport to do.
Okay.
I think the background behind movement mechanics and the way they teach is fantastic. I think it's a really cool course to do. So I think the education there for anybody to come and do is level brilliant.
1. What about, I don't know where it goes from that, because that's
so you can look at getting your level 2, your level 3, and then you go to level 4, which would be seminar level stuff.
Right, okay.
So I spent some time out in Ireland working with a phenomenal coach called Jamie Lawler. And he put me through my paces in kind of my educational standpoint on the course. It was like, okay, you can move, but now can you educate people to move? So we did a whole load of coaching development over at CrossFit Bua, which is a fantastic gym in Ireland if anyone's ever over there and wants kind of a place to drop into. But like, his kind of understanding of movement is second to none, but also the way he educates you to talk about movement and get people to understand movement is incredible. Because it's all well and good having an athlete that can squat, but if they don't understand why and how they're doing so, then there's going to be like a lot longer progression for them.
This might be very generalized, but I think you often see the best athletes wouldn't make the best coaches, 100%. And the best coaches wouldn't make the best athletes.
For sure.
So we'll come on to your individual athlete career, but it's probably hard for you to say now, but if you could see yourself picking one route, do you know which route yet, or is it still
athlete or coach? Athlete.
Okay.
Hint why Elise and Ollie have come on board with Brick by Brick. The end goal with that is to hand the company over to these guys, build something that stands on its own 2 feet, and hand it over to 2 coaches that are, you know, phenomenal and are gaining more experience, and hand it over to them.
And I suppose as you develop your athlete career, you're going to learn things as an athlete that will still help your coaching business.
100%.
So it works both ways. Okay, and then in terms of CrossFit coaching, do you think anyone could be good at CrossFit?
As in, could anybody walk into a CrossFit gym and better themselves by coming to it? Or
do you think, because I think a lot of the best CrossFit athletes in the world have come from a different background of sport.
So I think now the sport is changing. Whereas if you look at kind of Vellner came from a gymnastics background, and now I think if you're wanting to be the best in the world at the sport, we look at Mal O'Brien as the example. I think you have to be doing CrossFit from a very young age. I think the sport's different now. 5 or 6 years ago, if you look at even further back, if you look at kind of Fronin, when he came into the game pretty late compared to the athletes we have now. We have Olivia Kettersdottir, unsure how you pronounce her name, the American girl, Jacob Hepner's kind of training partner, who's 15, 16 and has been doing the sport since she was 6 or 7. But I think, yes, anyone could be good at the sport of CrossFit with the right coaching and kind of if they are patient enough in the sport. But I think you also then have to kind of give up everything to be good at the sport. I think you kind of have to obsess your life around. I don't think anybody at the top level of the sport is accidentally at the top level of the sport.
Okay, and how long were you doing CrossFit for before you decided to create the coaching business?
For around a year.
So your CrossFit athlete career has been really short so far.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd say a lot of people have done CrossFit for a long time before they decide to go all in on being an athlete.
Yeah.
You've made that decision quite quickly, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. It was something that, as kind of like my early kind of days of the sport happened, I almost knew the direction I wanted to go into straight away.
Okay, so talk me through your plans this year and next year.
So
you as an athlete.
For this year as an athlete, we have kind of just signed up to the Brick by Brick team for this year, an unreal opportunity to kind of jump on the team, and the goal is going to be to head to some pretty cool big events this year as a team, as well as also ticking off 1 or 2 individual competitions that I want to do as well.
So you mentioned Sweden. Is that
Sweden was last year?
Okay.
The move to Sweden. Okay. So this is for the 2024 season.
Yep.
The plan's going to be to head out to Sweden. I work with Prepared Programming. My coach is Phil Hesketh and Hendrik, who work for Prepared. And the goal is to move. Well, the plan is to move out there and kind of be on a team out there.
Okay, got you. So this 2023 is Brick by Brick.
Gain some experience on a team and help kind of build the team itself, so that next year Brick by Brick can have a team led by Elise that will stand on its own 2 feet and hopefully punch a semi-final ticket and potentially further.
So your plans this year are semi-final or quarters?
That's the plan.
Or semis? Yeah.
That's the plan, yeah. If we can execute everything as well as we know we can, then hopefully.
Semis this year. How does it work differently to individuals? Because obviously you've done your individual open. How does it work with teams? Do you have to do...
team, all team members will do the open in the same facility. You sign up as a team before the open.
Okay.
So you still do your own individual workouts, but then your combined scores go together to bring you into the next round. And then,
so have you done that already?
Yeah.
So you've done your quarters?
Yeah. So our quarterfinals are 2. So there's the quarterfinals. In the team quarterfinals. Yeah. So that will be specific team workouts. So your team has to be together in the same affiliate. And we'll have to complete team workouts.
Got you. So that's where your worm comes in.
Yeah. I don't think the worm will be in quarterfinals. It'll be more like synchro movements. So last year there was a lot of synchro shuttle runs, male-female partner stuff. And then when we go to in-person competition, so Berlin for the semi-finals this year, and that's when the worm comes out. That's when the real teamwork gets tested. Yeah.
So individual comps this year for you. How many have you got? 2 or 3?
So we have 1 in the diary right now.
Which is?
WOD on the Lock in Scotland.
Yep.
Sponsored by WOD Powders. So that's the one event we want to kind of head into fresh this year, and then depending on how that goes, we will base the rest of the season. If we come away from that with a load of holes in our game and a load of new things to work on, then we will kind of go back to the drawing board. If the competition goes well and we kind of build confidence from the last time I competed, then we'll have a look at something kind of towards September time and see what we can find there.
So WOD on the Lock looks mega. I mean, I've signed up to the qualifiers, which we'll see how that goes. But in terms of the comp, it looks crazy. You've got kayaking, swimming, open water swimming, mountain biking. Can't think what else there is.
Some running, hopefully.
Probably some running, rig work, and everything's on like a grass field. So in terms of varying your experience, that's a great comp.
So this is the kind of the main focus point of why we looked at this event, was just because of how varied it is. Like we, over the last kind of season in Norway and Sweden competing, tested some kind of real baseline CrossFit. So we saw this as an opportunity to kind of branch out, test myself in some situations that I haven't been in yet as an athlete. So just another opportunity to grow and to learn some new skills over there.
So whilst we're talking about Wad on the Lock, obviously it's being sponsored by Wad Powders. We've got the CrossFit 252 Brick by Brick collab pre-workout.
Yes.
Right here, which is, for those watching the podcast, you won't be able to see it, but for those on YouTube, you will be able to see it. Joe, I'm going to give you a shaker just to do a quick taste test.
Yeah, let's taste it. So what we're looking for here, we're tasting it, seeing the...
I mean, it's a pre-WOD, so you've got the effectiveness. Towards the end of the podcast, you might be itching a bit and tingling and buzzing and ready to train, which we're training after.
That's
so
the plan, yeah.
That works well. But in terms of taste, so this is rainbow candy, obviously Skittles, but we can't say that because they'd come after us. What are your thoughts?
No, so I like the rainbow candy. The rainbow candy is one of my favourite. I'm quite a sweet-toothed kind of guy. I quite like my sweets intro workout anyway, so it's an awesome way to kind of still get that, but without putting.
So you got rainbow candy and then the cherry cola. How did that compare?
So the cherry cola is a personal favourite.
Yeah.
If I was to pick kind of like anything that I could make a flavour of, the cherry cola would be my go-to. So being able to kind of blend that into a pre-workout and kind of hit two birds with one stone is unreal.
And collaborate with Brick by Brick. So
yeah, which is awesome.
Worked.
It was pretty huge for kind of me personally to have the opportunity to do so with that was brilliant, and then to match up my favourite flavour, my company,
happy days.
Was really cool.
So if you've not tried it, get some cherry cola pre-workout.
Yeah, if you haven't tried it, get on it because it is the best pre-workout on the market.
There you go, heard it here first. Right, so jumping back to your personal CrossFit career, how many CrossFit comps have you won?
0.
Sorry, I had to just throw that one in there.
Huge zero.
I already knew the answer to that, but I just thought I'd...
Get it in there, lay it off. 0 yet. This year coming.
But you've only known about the sport for 4 years, so you still...
As well, like, we had this discussion kind of off camera as well, but like, where I've wanted to go with the sport has always been higher than collecting kind of smaller podiums. I have aspirations of competing kind of at the top level. That's always the goal. Like the games is the goal. So the journey's kind of been building experience and confidence rather than chasing podiums and quick fixes to things. So been to some pretty kind of high level competitions and competed against some ridiculous level athletes. And for me mentally, they're almost as important as the podiums, which I'm sure will come if we keep doing what we're doing, keep ticking the right boxes. Yeah,
your goals are probably bigger than the typical CrossFit.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
You're probably looking to achieve...
Not that I don't want a podium, don't get me wrong. I've never kind of gone into an event where I haven't had aspirations of doing so. But
the level of event you're going to is probably much higher than your typical person who's been doing CrossFit for 4 years.
Yeah.
So, you'll get there.
We're chasing them. We're going to keep working until we do, so...
Okay, so now obviously your athlete career is pretty serious. How much would you say it affects your personal life and social life now that you're training?
Quite a lot. I feel like training is the social and personal life. Lucky to be blessed with some like really incredible people that support that and work themselves around and into that, which is awesome. So definitely blessed with that. Yeah.
And talk me through a week of training. How many sessions?
So a week of training is anywhere between kind of 12 to 14 sessions, normally typically double days. And then depending on kind of where I am with the training, we'll add like engine sessions as well. Yeah. So kind of an AM session, a PM session, and then specific machine work as well. So 2 to 3 sessions a day, typically with a swim day, and then a full kind of rest and recovery day. So if you class recovery kind of sessions as sessions, 15 plus sessions. If not, then kind of 10 to 12 kind of typically.
So hearing that just makes me think, fuck that. So yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine training more than once a day, especially working in an office-based job for 10 hours.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do that. So if I was listening to this podcast and wanted to get involved with Brick by Brick, but thought, fuck doing 12 sessions a week, what would a athlete who came to you and said, look, I just want some programming, but I don't want to be programmed like a serious athlete.
Yeah, for sure.
What would their day look like?
I use Elise as the example. Elise is a few weeks away from being a full-time doctor.
Yep.
So she's a medical student, works ridiculously hard. Like, I've never seen someone kind of work as hard as this girl does. So her programming is designed specifically around what her week looks like. So if we know we're working a 12-hour shift on a Monday, we're going to drop the volume or use that as a rest day, and then we're going to play around with days. If she has a long lunch break, then we can look at doing EMOMs in this time period. So everything's kind of specifically tailored around what your week looks like. And we don't want to do a 12-hour shift and then go and max out a squat. So on those longer days, we're going to be a little bit cautious with what we do. Maybe look at some gymnastics skill work, something that can potentially be a little bit easier mentally to move through. And then the days when we're kind of feeling good and full of energy, we look at doing this. So everything's programmed week by week and sometimes typically day by day.
Yep.
So if you message me first thing in the morning and say, look, listen, I got 3 hours sleep last night. You check the app and you've got a 40-minute EMOM. It's not going to happen. Then we can individually tailor and change things. So I think a lot of people will kind of work off month kind of splits and 12-week plans and X, Y, and Z. And by week 3, you could have, not drank enough water the day before and, your energy levels are dropped. So we work everything really specifically. We kind of work really hands-on with all our athletes. So everyone's always a message or a phone call away, and we try and adapt to that specifically.
So there's no entry level to joining Brick by Brick,
Zero
essentially. So
level.
anyone at any ability could come to you.
100%. Regardless on goals, whether you kind of have been doing CrossFit a day or you've been doing CrossFit for 2 years, if you want to kind of learn how to do a strict pull-up or you want to win the games, then the levels are there for everything.
And is it all online? So it's
everything's online. Okay. We try and get together as frequently as possible, try and have phone calls and video calls with my clients as much as possible and kind of get eyes on work. But yeah, everything's over the app, everything's online.
And a typical week, how would you program a week in advance, or
so
what would I
typically the athletes can see the programming on the Sunday for the following week,
right?
But then amendments can be made on the day. I always carry my laptop with me, so if anyone needs things changing, then we can do that.
And then a check-in, like
typically daily. Okay. Most of my clients check in with me on the day, kind of message me first thing in the morning when they walk into the gym, and then we'll kind of send videos and feedback right the way through. So it's almost real time, as close to one-on-one kind of in person as we can get, just over the phone.
So how does that work when you're teaching or
so this school? Is when typically kind of my teaching hours, we try and match it around athlete training time. So most of my athletes kind of know when my kind of teaching hours are, and they will kind of message before or kind of expect to reply a little bit later.
Yeah. Random question, but I'm just curious. How often do you drink alcohol?
So this is kind of my claim to it. I've never consumed a single drop of alcohol in my life.
Mic drop.
Yeah, I'm out here. Yeah, never consumed a single drop of alcohol in my life.
Just
any never reason? Have, like no zero reason at all. Like kind of like my friendship group don't drink. So kind of the social aspect of that has never been there. We've always kind of gone play some sport, kind of go jump on the Xbox kind of thing. That's always been our go-to. So there's never been that demand to go out and drink. And it's just never been something that I've been surrounded by, to the point that like on the wall at my house is a picture of me at like 6 years old holding a pint, because it's like the closest I've ever been to a drink, and it's always like the go-to funny thing.
That's mad that I randomly asked that question, and
it came out and there's a story behind it. There we go.
But genuinely, I'd thought I've never really heard you talk about alcohol. That's why.
No, but it's never been like, I'm not against it. Like if you wanted to go to the pub now, then I would happily go and sit in that situation. It's not something I'm against. It's just never been something that I've been interested in.
Which must probably explains why you've always been so into sport, or
because I've never had, like, if I came into CrossFit and it was like, okay, I have to stop drinking to find the sport, I think it would be different, because that's never been there. Like spending late nights at the gym has never been a problem, because it's not replacing anything. It's always been there. Which
really shows you how toxic it is, because people who don't know any better would think, I'm going to have to sacrifice.
For sure. Slip away from
something that X, I do regularly and can't imagine my life without. Which,
for sure.
Which has obviously helped, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so anyone who's never done CrossFit before, would you advise them to do it?
I would say
to consider it, or
to the CrossFit itself. I would say find your closest affiliate. If you go onto Google and type in CrossFit near me, find your local affiliate and go in, because inside every CrossFit box there's world-class coaches. There's a community and a service that is unlike nothing else. I feel like it doesn't come across when you talk about it until you walk in and experience it for yourself. Like whatever shape you're in, whatever fitness levels you're at, whatever goals and aspirations you have, walking into that first session will be the hardest thing you do. And then from there, everything's awesome. Like it's one of those things that everyone always says it, and every company that's trying to get people through the door is always going to say, we're the best, come do this. Like it's nothing better than what we offer.
Yeah.
But go jump on Google, find whatever your closest affiliate is, literally just type in CrossFit near me and there will be a link.
Yeah.
Turn up, because I think it'll be the best thing you do.
And final question. How long will you pursue CrossFit as an individual athlete?
I will stay in the sport as long as it takes me to get to where I want to be.
Okay, which is?
To the games.
So CrossFit Games is the goal, whether it's a team or individual?
Team, individual, hopefully both.
And when do you think you'll be at your best? Considering you've only done it 4 years, and considering your age, where would you predict you'll be at your best as a CrossFit athlete?
So I'm incredibly lucky at the moment. I don't know if lucky is the right word, but incredibly thankful for the kind of opportunities I have right now. I have a really cool set of sponsors. I have the best coaching team and the best kind of family, friends that are kind of all bringing things together. So I think the version of me right now is the best that I've ever been, and I can only see that improving. So I think we're on to something pretty special pretty soon.
So we're going to finish with just some rapid fire questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
There's only a few, and then wrap up the first episode of the WOD Pod. So, modern state-of-the-art CrossFit gym or old school rustic CrossFit box like this one?
Old school.
Okay.
For sure.
Handstand walks or butterfly pull-ups?
Handstand walks, anything upside down.
Cleans or snatches?
Cleans.
Because you can do more.
Yeah, I can clean more.
Because it's your strongest lift.
Yeah, for sure.
You're really good at one or the other. What's your go-to coffee order?
Oh, so I'm like a black coffee. I come onto the coffee scene very late, so just like a straight black coffee is as adventurous as I get right now.
If you've never drunk alcohol before, you're not going to be...
Yeah, coffee's not there.
Nah, it's still not there. What's your go-to hype song?
Go-to hype song.
So you're going for a max clean.
Right, I'm a country
just
boy.
Had a coffee.
So
right, and you're walking up to the bar, you've had a shot of cherry cola pre-wad.
Hype song. I don't know hype song, but my favourite song, Morgan Wallen, Somebody's Problem. That goes on. I live to country music. Music. Most people's hype songs, definitely not going to tip my boxes. But yeah, so anything country. Morgan Wallen's the go-to.
And if you could be sponsored by any brand, excluding Wood Powders, obviously, any brand, what would it be?
Any brand in the world, brick by brick.
Any CrossFit brand.
Any CrossFit brand
that exists now.
Any company.
Any big CrossFit brand. What would you pick? Because they might be listening right now.
Let's go Rad.
Yeah, Rad Global. Be good, wouldn't it, to have a constant supply of
just
fresh shoes.
For sure.
It's the one. Right, we're going to wrap it up here.
Sweet.
Okay, so any plugs? How do people get in contact with Brick by Brick?
So on Brick by Brick Programming on Instagram, or my Instagram's the J_Thomas-Greaves. Either of those two is the best place to hit us.
Yeah, I'll put your Instagrams on the screen, whatever. And
then send a message on there. That's the easiest way to get in touch with me, and we'll go from there.
And we'll see you at the games.
See you at the games.
Nice.
I hope you enjoyed that episode, and a huge thank you for listening. Make sure you're following the pod on Instagram at the.wad.pod, our Twitter at the_wad_pod. The podcast is sponsored by Wad Powders. That's at Wad Powders on Instagram. Please show some support to the pod by either sharing this episode with a mate or buying some supplements from wadpowders.co.uk. See you guys next week.